My daughter walked away on my special day and thought she had beaten me. But I knew something she didn't, and in just 3 days, everything would flip upside down. Stay until the end, because what happens next will surprise you. Birthdays are meant to be happy times with cake and hugs, not days when your heart breaks into tiny pieces. I thought my 60th birthday would be filled with balloons and my grandchildren's laughter. Maybe some friends would come over, and Sarah, my only child, would be there smiling next to me. But here I was, sitting alone in a strange place, looking at a piece of cake that tasted like cardboard. The room had one sad balloon floating near the ceiling, and a crooked banner that said Happy Birthday. Down the hall, I could hear a TV playing game shows, and everything smelled like strong cleaning soap. It made my nose tickle. Sarah stood by the door with her arms folded tight across her chest. She looked annoyed, like she had better things to do. Her clothes were neat and fancy, her hair looked perfect, and she wore shiny lipstick. She looked like someone important, someone who didn't have time for old mothers. In her hand, she held my house keys. She shook them, and they made a jingling sound that felt so final. "Well, Mother," she said in a cold voice, "I hope you like it here. They have activities and other old people to chat with. I'm really busy right now with my job, and taking care of the children, and managing everything. I simply cannot handle one more thing." I felt like screaming at the top of my lungs. I felt like crying until no more tears would come. I felt like throwing that terrible cake across the room and asking her how we ended up here. How did my little girl, the one who used to hold my hand when she was scared, turn into this person who could leave her own mother behind like an old toy nobody wanted anymore? My heart hurt so badly. It was a pain deep inside that felt like it might never stop. I remembered all her birthdays when I made special treats and stayed up late making costumes for her school plays. I remembered giving up things I wanted so she could have what she needed. But I didn't make noise or cause problems. I just smiled and waved goodbye. I watched her turn around and walk away fast, her fancy shoes making click-click sounds on the shiny floor. Her mean little smile stayed in my mind even after she was gone. I could have said many things. I could have begged her not to leave me, to remember all the good times we shared. But I stayed quiet because I knew a secret she didn't know. In 3 days, money from my husband would arrive in my bank account. $16 million. That's a lot of money, more than most people ever see. I kept this secret for many years because my husband asked me to. I never told Sarah how much money he left for me. She always thought we had enough to be comfortable, but not rich. She never asked questions and I never explained. As I sat there playing with the frosting on my fork, I wondered what would happen if she knew about the money. Would she have been nicer to me? Would she have tried harder to show love and care? Or would she have just tried to take the money faster? These questions floated around in my head like clouds, and I couldn't answer them. This new place was so different from my real home. The workers were kind when they had time, but they were always rushing around helping everyone. My roommate was named Martha. She was sweet and loved doing word puzzles, but she mostly slept or watched old funny shows on TV. I tried to join the games they played and talk to the other people living there, but I didn't really feel like myself. I felt like I was pretending to be in someone else's life, waiting and waiting for something to change. That night, I lay in my skinny bed listening to the buzzing lights and someone snoring far away. I thought about being a mother and all the choices we make. We give so much love and time and energy, hoping that someday our children will understand how much we cared. We hope they'll remember the nights we couldn't sleep because we were worried about them, the times our hearts broke because they were hurting. But sometimes children forget. Sometimes they grow up and forget the hands that held them when they fell, the arms that hugged them when they cried. It's a special kind of hurt that only another mother really understands. But I wasn't giving up. Not even close. I had 3 days to wait, 3 days to make plans. I thought about all the things I could do with that money, how I could make a new life exactly how I wanted it. Maybe I would visit faraway places I'd only seen in pictures. Maybe I would buy a small cottage near the ocean where I could hear the waves every morning. Or maybe, just maybe, I would show Sarah that you can't throw people away like garbage, especially not your own mother. If you were me, would you have stayed quiet knowing what I knew? Or would you have told her right away about the fortune and watched her face change? I picked staying silent. Sometimes the best way to get even is to wait patiently. And as I fell asleep that night, I felt a tiny spark of hope growing inside me. My story wasn't finished yet. Not even a little bit. Let me tell you something. Those 3 days felt like 3 whole years. If you've ever been stuck somewhere you really didn't want to be, you know exactly how I felt. The nursing home wasn't fancy at all. The walls were painted bright yellow, but the lights were so harsh they made everyone look sick and tired. My room was tiny with one window that looked out at the parking lot. I could see people coming to visit their families, carrying flowers and gifts. I watched them sometimes and wondered if anyone would ever come see me. But deep down I knew the truth. Sarah had made it very clear I was alone now. The first morning, I woke up to a nurse coming in with a tray. "Good morning, Mrs. Patterson. Time for breakfast," she said cheerfully. She put down a plate with what was supposed to be eggs, but they looked like yellow rubber. I poked them with my fork and pushed the plate away. "If you want to lose weight, just eat here for a week." I thought about asking for extra fruit tomorrow just to have something good to eat. But I kept calm and polite. I've always been the type of person who doesn't make trouble. My grandmother used to say, "Be nice even when things are hard." So I smiled, said thank you to everyone, and tried to make the best of everything. I joined the evening games even though I'd never played them before. That's where I met Betty. She was an older lady with bright silver hair and the loudest, happiest laugh you've ever heard. She wore bright purple eyeshadow and told amazing stories about when she worked in a circus as a young woman. "Sweetheart, you think this place is boring? Try living in a tent with 12 acrobats and 2 elephants," she'd say with a big grin. Betty became my friend right away. She introduced me to everyone and made sure I always had someone to sit with at lunch. We spent hours talking about the nurses, the food, and the funny things that happened. Betty had a sharp sense of humor and a kind heart, and she made those long, slow days feel a little bit better. She could tell I was hiding something, though. "You've got a secret, don't you?" she asked one day as we sat in the garden watching birds hop around. I just smiled and shrugged my shoulders. "Maybe I do," I said softly. "But some secrets need to stay hidden for a little while longer." Meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah. I imagined her in my house, sitting on my couch with her feet up, drinking from my favorite mug. She was probably going through all my things, deciding what she wanted to keep and what to throw in the trash. Maybe she found the box of old photographs in the closet, or the letters I saved from her father. Did she even care about those memories? Or was she just happy to finally be free of her burden, which is what she called me once? That thought stung like a bee, but I pushed it away. I'd spent too many years worrying about what Sarah thought of me. Now I had bigger, more important things to focus on. Every night I lay in bed and counted the hours until the money arrived. 3 days. That's all I needed to wait. I thought about that $16 million just sitting there, waiting for me to claim it. It felt like a dream, like something that happens in movies, not real life. I imagined traveling to places I'd only read about in books. Maybe buying a little house by the water where I could paint pictures and watch the sunset. Maybe even starting a charity to help other women like me, women who gave everything to their families only to be forgotten when they got older. The ideas filled my head like fireflies on a summer night. But I also felt something else burning inside me. Anger. Not the kind that explodes like fireworks, but the kind that burns slow and steady like a candle. I thought about all the times I put Sarah first, all the things I gave up for her. I remembered staying awake all night when she was sick, or spending my weekends driving her to dance classes and birthday parties. I was always there, no matter what she needed. And now, when I needed her most, she tossed me aside like an old newspaper. It hurt deep in my bones, but it also made me stronger somehow. I realized I didn't need her love or approval to be happy. I just needed to take care of myself for once. Have you ever had to be quiet and wait for the right moment? It's really hard. Every time the phone rang, I wondered if it was Sarah calling to check on me, or maybe to brag about living in my house. But she never called. Not even once. I guess she thought she'd won, that she'd gotten rid of me forever. She had no idea what was about to happen. On the second day, Betty and I snuck into the kitchen after everyone went to bed. We made ourselves sandwiches with peanut butter and jelly. We sat in the TV room giggling like little kids and talked about what we'd do if we suddenly got rich. "I'd buy a boat and sail around the world," Betty said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "What about you?" I smiled, thinking about my secret. "I think I'd buy freedom," I said quietly. Betty nodded like she understood exactly what I meant. By the third day, I was ready. I'd waited long enough. I'd watched Sarah show me who she really was, and now it was my turn to show her. The money would appear in my account by lunchtime, and I had a plan ready to go. For the first time in many years, I felt like I was in charge of my own life. I wasn't just sitting around anymore. I was preparing for something big, and as I looked out the window at the pretty sunset, I knew everything was about to change forever. Sometimes the sweetest way to win is by being patient and waiting for the right moment. And believe me, it was worth every second. Day 3 arrived with a special feeling I hadn't felt in forever. I woke up before the sun came up, my heart beating fast and loud in my chest. But this time it wasn't because I was scared or sad. It was because I was excited. I lay there in the quiet darkness, listening to Martha's soft snoring and the faraway sound of breakfast carts rolling down the hallway. Today was finally the day. I grabbed my phone with shaky hands and checked my bank account. There it was. $16 million, sitting right there like it had always been mine. I stared at those numbers for a long time, letting the truth sink deep into my mind. All those years of putting myself last, all the times I went without so Sarah could have more, and now finally I had something that belonged only to me. I didn't waste a single minute. I called my lawyer, Mr. Thompson. He was a gentle man with a calm voice and a smart brain. He'd helped my husband with his papers for years, and he knew exactly what needed to happen. "It's time," I told him, and my voice didn't shake at all. "Let's start the plan." Within just a few hours, Sarah's credit cards stopped working. Every single one of them. The house she thought now belonged to her was sold. I found a wonderful young family who loved it the moment they saw it. They had 2 little kids and a big fluffy dog named Buster. They wanted to fill the backyard with laughter and games. I hoped they wouldn't mind the muddy paw prints on the porch. I spent the morning with Betty drinking weak coffee in the garden and watching little birds jump from tree to tree. I told her everything about the money, the plan, and selling the house. She threw her head back and laughed so loud, clapping her hands together. "Well, honey, you sure know how to make a grand exit," she said with twinkling eyes. For the first time in so long, I felt light inside, like a balloon floating up toward the sky. The heavy weight I'd been carrying for years seemed to disappear, replaced by a feeling of freedom I didn't even know existed. Then, right after lunch, my phone started ringing. I didn't need to look at the screen to know who was calling. Sarah's voice exploded through the phone, high-pitched and panicked. "Mother, my cards aren't working. I tried to buy groceries and they said no. What's happening? And why are there people at the house? They said they own it now. Mother, what did you do?" I could almost see her face, all red and angry, her perfectly painted nails tapping hard on the table. For just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost, but not quite. I took a long, slow breath, getting ready for what I needed to say. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. The moment to say exactly the right words at exactly the right time. "Oh, sweetie," I said in a calm, quiet voice. "I guess you'll need to figure things out by yourself now. Good luck with that." There was total silence on the other end of the phone, and then Sarah started yelling and saying confused things. I let her talk and get it all out, and then I simply pressed the button to end the call. I put the phone down and closed my eyes, enjoying the feeling washing over me. It was like finally breathing out after holding your breath underwater for way too long. Have you ever wanted to say the perfect thing at the perfect time? Trust me, it feels absolutely wonderful. All those years of keeping quiet, of swallowing my feelings, of letting Sarah walk all over me like a doormat, they were finished. I was done being the person who never stood up for herself, the mother who let everyone take advantage of her kindness. I was finally standing tall and strong, and it felt better than anything I could have imagined. The news spread through the nursing home like wildfire on a dry day. Betty couldn't wait to tell everyone about my amazing turnaround, and soon I became the most talked-about person at lunch. People I'd barely spoken to before came up to congratulate me, to ask for my advice, to share their own stories about difficult families. It felt like I'd joined a special club, a club of women who'd been ignored and underestimated, but who found ways to take their power back. That afternoon, I sat in the garden with the warm sun on my face and thought about what would happen next. I could do absolutely anything, go absolutely anywhere. The whole world felt wide open, bursting with endless possibilities. I thought about traveling on adventures, maybe a trip to see the tall mountains, or a boat ride to beautiful islands. I thought about buying a cozy house near the beach, somewhere peaceful and quiet where I could read books and paint pictures and listen to the ocean waves. I thought about Betty and how much I would miss her if I moved away. Maybe I'd ask her to come with me. After all, every good adventure needs a best friend. But mostly I thought about Sarah. I wondered if she would ever truly understand what she had done to me. If she would ever feel even a tiny bit of the pain she caused me. Maybe she would learn, maybe she wouldn't. But that was her journey to take, not mine anymore. I'd spent way too long worrying about her happiness, trying to earn her approval, hoping for her love. Now it was time to focus on me and what made me happy. As the sun started setting, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink, I felt a deep sense of peace settle over me like a warm blanket. I'd done what I needed to do. I'd taken back my life, my dignity, and my future. And for the first time in forever, I was genuinely excited to see what tomorrow would bring my way. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about getting even or making someone suffer. It's about moving forward, becoming stronger and wiser than you were before. And oh my goodness, was it worth all the waiting? Now I'm living my absolute best life, and I truly mean that with my whole heart. If someone had told me a year ago that I'd be waking up every morning to the sound of ocean waves outside my window, I would have laughed and said they were dreaming. But here I am in a beautiful apartment by the beach, with sunshine pouring through the windows every single morning and a salty breeze that blows away all the sadness from my old life. My days are filled with things I never thought I'd have time for again. I paint colorful pictures, read interesting books, take long walks on the sandy beach. And yes, sometimes I sip lemonade on my balcony while watching the sun go down. I even bought that bright blue sports car I always dreamed about. The one I used to see in magazines and say, one day maybe. Well, that day finally came. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like driving with the wind blowing through your hair and not a single worry in your mind. Betty, keeping her promise, visits me every single weekend. She's become like the sister I never had, and our adventures together are the stuff of legend around here. We've tried every ice cream shop within 20 miles, and we're slowly making our way through all the little bookstores and craft fairs. Betty even talked me into taking a pottery class, something I would have been too nervous to try before. We made some really ugly bowls, but we laughed until our stomachs hurt, and that's what truly matters in life. Sometimes we just sit on my porch drinking sweet tea and watching people walk by, sharing stories about our old lives and dreams for our future. It's a kind of peaceful happiness I never knew existed. I've made wonderful new friends too. There's a whole group of women here who, just like me, have survived hard times and come out even stronger. We have book clubs where we discuss stories, movie nights with popcorn, and sometimes we sing karaoke really badly, but have the best time. I've learned that it's never too late to start fresh, to find people who truly care about you, to rediscover the parts of yourself you thought were lost forever. I even started helping out at the local animal shelter, walking the dogs and organizing events to find them homes. There's something incredibly healing about giving back to others, about being needed for something good and simple and pure. And Sarah, well, let's just say she's learning some hard lessons about life. After the first shock wore off, she tried calling me over and over, texting me long messages, even sending emails. Sometimes she sounded angry, sometimes she sounded sad and sorry, sometimes she just sounded confused about what had happened. At first, I ignored every single message. I needed space, and I needed her to understand that you can't treat people badly without consequences. Eventually, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, a public place where I felt safe and in control of the situation. She looked different when she walked in. More tired, a little lost, not quite as perfectly put together as she used to be. She apologized in her own way and asked if there was any possible way to fix our broken relationship. I listened carefully to her words, but I didn't rush to forgive her. I told her that trust, once it's broken into pieces, takes a very long time to put back together, and that I was finally putting my own needs first for a change. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was necessary and important. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just forgiven her and forgotten everything, swept it all under the rug for the sake of keeping family together. But then I remember all those lonely nights in the nursing home, feeling abandoned and unwanted, the sharp pain of betrayal that cut so deep. I remember the way she looked at me like I was nothing more than a problem to solve, a burden to get rid of. I remember how incredibly good it felt to finally take back my power, to choose my own happiness for once in my life. I don't wish any harm to come to Sarah. I genuinely hope she finds her own path, learns valuable lessons from her mistakes, and maybe, just maybe, becomes a better person because of everything that happened. But I also know deep in my heart that I can't spend my life waiting around for her to change or approve of me. I have to live for myself now, make myself happy, follow my own dreams. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and letting the universe handle the rest. I see proof of this every single day in the little things that bring me joy. The happiness of a morning swim in the ocean, the sound of friends laughing together, the satisfaction of a day well spent doing things I love. I see it in the way I walk now, with my head held high, no longer weighed down by guilt or regret or sadness. I see it in Betty's big smile that lights up her whole face, in the wagging tails of the shelter dogs when I arrive, in the sunsets that paint the sky in colors so beautiful I never knew they existed. I see it in my freedom to say yes to new adventures and say no to anything that doesn't make me feel good. Would you have done the same thing I did, or would you have forgiven and forgotten everything? Let the past stay buried in the past? I think every woman has to answer that question for herself, based on her own experiences and feelings. For me, the answer became crystal clear. I chose to reclaim my life and make it my own. I chose to find joy in everyday moments, to surround myself with people who lift me up instead of people who drag me down and make me feel small. I chose to let go of the burning anger, but I didn't forget the important lessons I learned about standing up for myself. I chose to believe with my whole heart that it's never too late to start over, to find real happiness, to become the hero of your own amazing story. So here's to new beginnings and second chances. Here's to the sweet taste of freedom and independence. Here's to all the women everywhere who have been underestimated, overlooked, or cast aside like they don't matter. May you find your own path to happiness, whatever that looks like for you personally. And if you ever find yourself standing at a crossroads, wondering whether to forgive someone who hurt you or to move on and start fresh, remember this important truth. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living your very best life and being genuinely happy. If you enjoyed listening to my story and learning about my journey, don't forget to subscribe to Pretty Revenge for more tales of strength, reinvention, and a little bit of sass and attitude. Life after 50 is just getting started, believe me. And trust me when I say this with complete confidence, the very best is yet to come for all of us. Every day brings new surprises, new adventures, new reasons to smile and feel grateful. I wake up each morning feeling blessed and excited about the possibilities ahead. I've learned that you're never too old to chase your dreams, make new friends, or try something you've always been curious about. I've learned that happiness doesn't come from other people's approval. It comes from within yourself, from knowing your worth, from treating yourself with the kindness and respect you deserve. I've learned that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes your real family is the friends who stand by you, who celebrate your victories, who pick you up when you fall down. Betty has shown me more love and loyalty in these past months than Sarah showed me in years. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. I've learned that money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure does buy freedom and choices and opportunities. It bought me the chance to start over, to design a life that brings me joy instead of stress. Most importantly, I've learned that it's never, ever too late to stand up for yourself and demand better treatment. Whether you're 30, 60, or 90 years old, you deserve respect and love and kindness. Never let anyone make you feel like you don't matter, because you absolutely do matter. Your story isn't over until you say it's over, and mine is just beginning its most exciting chapter yet. So here's to living boldly, loving freely, and never settling for less than you deserve. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting happy. And friends, I am happier than I've ever been in my entire life.